Chasing on a sleepless night. Try to catch me howling at the moon. Try to catch me howling at the moon.
What's up, guys? I'm 85% sure that we're live right now. I hope it's working. Welcome in everybody to the first episode of the scope, where we're going to talk about FPS games in general. Tonight, I think it's only appropriate on the channel to start with Battlefield. Before we get started, hopefully the chat was supposed to pop up on the screen. I can't get it to work, which is probably the first of many technical issues that we're going to have tonight. And I can work on it in the background and we'll get it sorted out. But there's a lot of stuff going on. We got a lot of things on the screen, but we'll do our best. I think subs will show up. There's a chat. Yeah. Never mind. We're good. I fixed it. I just had to,
and bounds.
I just had to yell at it a little bit so I can fix stuff with my mind. Not a big deal, but yeah, welcome in. I am joined by a very special guest. If you guys haven't heard of him, you're doing YouTube wrong. USA specialist. He is a fellow Battlefield YouTuber, and since we're going to talk about Battlefield, I thought he could come on the show and try to save this disaster that is
What's up, guys?
the scope. So welcome in. How you doing, man?
Doing all right. Wish I could be playing Battlefield, but it comes and goes.
Don't we all? But anyway, yeah, and everybody in the chat, welcome in, guys. I'm probably not going to answer chat too much at the end. If you guys want to stick around and we have time, I'd love to do a chat Q&A. But the reason the chat is on the screen is because I want you guys to be part of the show. When people watch it back, we'll be able to see what you guys are saying. You guys can, have your own kind of discussion going, but I think it's important that you guys are a part of the show, as well as channel supporters. All that stuff should update live, God willing. And yeah, so I think we'll get started. What we're going to talk about first, as everybody knows, the state of Battlefield 2042 and if it can recover, and essentially how we got here. My first thought on the whole thing, I was honestly thinking about it today, and it's kind of surreal to me how in the lead up there was not hardly any gameplay. The trailers were good, but we didn't see gameplay. They didn't have any of those events where like they talked with the developers about what's going to be in the game, those reveal events, or had celebrities come play like they always have in the past. And that was setting off warning flags for everybody. But then the beta came around, and then that's an early build, everything's fine. And then the game came out, and like we realized that all that stuff was like not really true. They had to know that the state that it was in, and it's just crazy that nobody said anything.
Yeah, looking back on it now, like I kind of want to make content where I'm like, what was that moment? What was that moment where like, it's happening again, isn't it? Missing Gamescom, that might have been it. Because getting the big cinematic trailer out and then immediately into that gameplay reveal in June was great, and that felt pretty good. And then it was just downhill from there. Missing Gamescom. The cinematics were great, but the communication wasn't there. The real marketing wasn't there. So it's
Yeah, it had the whole lead up to it just had like an off feeling about it. But there were a few developers and things that were telling us, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's an old build. It just needs a little more time in the oven. This thing needs like 6 months in the oven. And we have an interesting way to look at this because I play on PC and you're on Xbox. So we can talk about like the problems that each of us have had. And honestly, the biggest one to me is like, there are fundamental issues with the game, and we can get into later if we think that, like, even if the game's working, if I'll enjoy it with the design decisions that they went with, but that's kind of like a whole nother topic. But right now, like, I have a 3090, and granted I'm streaming from it, but I don't stay over 100 frames. I have a memory leak, mouse inputs bugged, like it'll do ghost inputs and stuff while you're running. Like, how you aim in a shooting game doesn't work, and that's just like mind-blowing. I don't know, what are the things that you've seen on console?
Console's really hit or miss. I kind of made it the whole way through the beta and through those first few weeks without too much. Experienced a few hard crashes all the way back to like Xbox dashboard. Nothing too insane, and those were hard crashes after dozens and dozens of hours. So it was an average of like one every 18 hours or something, which isn't insane, Um, but I think the bigger issue is it hasn't gotten better. Here we are, almost 100 days after release, and sometimes it works, sometimes it crashes, sometimes the frames stutter. But the bigger issue is definitely the missing features. As much as 80% of the time it's working fine, there's nothing there's no reason I want to be there in the first place. You can have a game that is lacking content if it's fun. You can have a game that is maybe having bad performance if there's a lot of content. But Battlefield 2042 doesn't really hit on any of those like core aspects. It doesn't work well. The gameplay loop is kind of weak. There's not even a lot of cosmetics. There's not a lot of content. Not a lot of maps. So there's no reason to be there. And when you are, it doesn't always work. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and I mean with the maps and stuff, like you can just it just has a feel like it's almost a proof right there that they didn't have enough time. They look
Hmm.
like so unfinished and sterile and empty. And it's just such a shame because like the hype was there. I'm gonna go ahead and put on the screen like the YouTube. We have fancy screens around here. Like we don't screw around. This is the real deal. That is like Google search trends for what happened to this game, and you can see that now it is actually lower than where it was before it was even revealed. And it's just such a bummer that it went that way because it didn't seem to me like it was that hard. It almost seemed like the Battlefield community was like pretty in unison with what we wanted. And we
Yep.
wanted I mean, short, like just in a nutshell, was like like a more modern Battlefield 4, like with features and stuff added instead of things taken away, is essentially what I wanted. But Battlefield 5 had like pretty much my favorite movement of any shooter I've played. And if you put like that in a modern setting, fix the gun mechanics like the random recoil could go with the atmosphere and map style of Battlefield 1, I mean that's just like I feel like at least 80% of the community would be happy with that.
Hmm. Yeah. There's I don't know. It's kind of interesting how they chased trends while still not even being able to execute on the basics of those trends. Like Call of Duty is not an incredibly complex gameplay, but it executes on progression, skins, cosmetics, content, events. It's always in motion to some extent, and Battlefield just cannot put one foot in front of the other when it comes to these gameplay experiences. And they don't necessarily have to do this long live service life, but more often than not, their content is a little weak, so it needs to keep being fed, and then they don't appear to have the production to keep that going. We were kind of talking about this before we started this up, that they're always aiming for this live service, but they can't figure out how to do a live service, even when they're totally copying everything else that like Call of Duty's doing. So it's like if you're gonna copy something, at least do it better. I think that's fine. But if you're not gonna copy them, at least you kind of have an X factor. But they're in the middle of low quality while at the same time copying trends that have already been expired.
Yeah, and I mean even within EA they have their own example because Apex Legends, like
Hmm.
when I cover the earnings calls, when they talk about the revenue they make from Apex Legends, it's actually mind blowing. I really
Yeah.
hope we don't get more trickle fed content, drip fed content like we did with Battlefield 5 because it was just too long in between maps, and I think season 1 for this game needs to be spectacular. Like I honestly don't know what they're gonna do to like get the veterans off of, hey, where's my scoreboard? Like why can't I
Hmm.
join my friend's squad if the game's already going? Like I mean some of that stuff was so basic, and like why I liked Battlefield, if I had a bunch of friends online we could all get in a big room on Discord and switch teams, get on the same team, pick squads. If we had more than 4 or 5 people we could make another squad and everybody could get in together. But it's like now it's I mean, conspiracy theory, is it skill based matchmaking? Like, did they want to go that route? Is why they're going exclusive? I don't know why you get rid of a server browser. That's one of the
Yeah,
things. Like
and
you,
like,
go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
I was
Yeah,
just saying
finish your thought.
one of the things that you said that made a lot of sense is like they're trying to copy these other games and maybe they don't have like as big a player base and stuff as COD. But one thing they had over COD, like a lot of people that were dissatisfied with Call of Duty, is I hate skill based matchmaking. Well, come to Battlefield. You pick your server, you pick the closest server with the map that you want. And that's one of the big legs up that Battlefield had on Call of Duty is you can 100% guarantee that there is no skill-based matchmaking, and they totally just like threw it out the window.
Yeah, and like so you and I both know I'm working on a video where I'm kind of going back in and redesigning elements of 2042 as you know, a professional designer. And it just felt hilarious to me that I'm designing a scoreboard. Like I'm going to post my scoreboard design to Reddit or push it to the devs. And it's like, dude, like should I be doing this? Like why why does the community have to show you a scoreboard? Like here's a JPEG of the scoreboard, put it in the game. It's like they know what a scoreboard is. Like they know how to do this. They've been doing it for decades. And it just feels ridiculous that we're having these kind of conversations. It's one thing if you're talking about super technical, you know, super finessed or super technical conversations like, oh, the gunplay or the balance. That's one thing, but you know, having somebody out here redesigning the UI and redesigning things like scoreboards because it's not in the game is a hilarious state for a game to be in. Sadly, you know,
Yeah.
and the fact is the scoreboard wasn't replaced with anything else. There's no real reason for that to be gone. They're not building upon what was functional, what was fine. They're for some reason reinventing the wheel in some of the like pettiest senses, like getting rid of a scoreboard. Like there's no reason that shouldn't even be a thought in development. It should be like, oh, just go make a scoreboard, throw it back in, make sure it's designed correctly, as always, you know, and then add, you know, the end of round screen. Cool, I'm happy with that. But like that doesn't mean that you have to get rid of the scoreboard.
Yeah, I feel like they had a really unique opportunity to build off what works, and then with Battlefield 5 and even 1 to a little bit lesser extent, the lessons are like there with like what
Yeah.
was good and what wasn't. And I guess it has a little bit to do with the stuff that Tom Henderson said, and you know, some of the stuff I helped him with is like there's just a lot of new people, and
Yeah.
I think it's up to like higher level management to see these things, to understand like this is where the game needs to go. And honestly, from what it sounds like to me is like the developers kind of know, but like looking at those Glassdoor reviews that I looked at that since got deleted, like it seems like the developers know what the community wants, and management and EA wouldn't sign off on it, or they already went one direction and they couldn't turn back from it.
Yeah, and it's like it's frustrating because you know I can obviously see executives just saying, you know, we want this, we want microtransactions, we want a battle royale. And sadly enough, if we're gonna get forced down that direction, I would at least like it to be good. Um, and you know, here we are chasing these trends, and they're not even, not to say, not even not fun. They're not even functional. You know, here we are, like I said, 100 days out. We have no idea what season one is. We have no idea if they're going to save Hazard's End. We have no idea if they're adding a battle royale. We have no idea if they're just going to trash this game like they did Anthem, because you know that was another game that they promised a whole rework. 9 months after release, it was gone, and that was a whole new IP with all this creativity, all this beautiful direction, and they got rid of it. So it's kind of scary. I don't know if EA is going to learn their lesson or not. I really have no idea, and it's also kind of scary. We're putting so much faith in people like just Vince Zampella and Marcus Leto, and as talented as those guys are, we're talking about hundreds, if not over 1,000 devs working on this game during certain moments. And so it's like, you know, how you're trusting two guys with the fate of an entire franchise.
And it's really awesome that you bring that up, because I was actually thinking about that the other day. Mr. Leto has been quite vocal on, you know, Twitter saying, hey, I just got to get my feet under me, figure this out, we're going to get it fixed. But then like the stuff going on with DICE like starts to get me like questioning everything, like really.
Yep.
And the one thing that popped in my head is he really going to be able to do that much, since he's the narrative guy, right? Like, so he's supposed to write like what the specialists do, maybe like a story-based game coming up. Is he going to fix multiplayer? Because it doesn't, I mean, and that's what Battlefield is big multiplayer with your friends. Like, and I don't know is he going to have the ability, or is he in a position to fix the multiplayer, which is what most of us want? Or is he, I wonder if there's a miscommunication, if there was like, hey, I'm going to fix these specialists, I'm going to put some more lore in the game.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, that's cool, and that, like, lore is on top of it, but the base of the game needs to be there,
Yeah.
and it's just not right now, and it's
Yeah.
crazy to me. Like, it's just, I think it really comes down to not enough time, and I think you can see that with the weapon customization too. There's like 4 attachment slots. Everyone was hoping for like a big extravagant something like World War III has, with a lot of gun customization, and then within those 4 slots, like half the attachments do the same thing, like to a different extent, but
Hmm.
it's like so weird. Like,
Yeah, it's also concerning. Well, first off, with Aledo, what I think will be really awesome with him is he sounds like he's going to be heading the Seattle studio, which at this rate, it might sound like EA is starting to take Battlefield away from Dice Stockholm and start to hand it off to a new developer. So I mean, imagine they made Battlefield Studios like we've seen other franchises do. Just in entertainment in general. Um, but to have him at least like on that board, like supervising a whole studio that might take lead on the franchise, I think is very exciting. And then you have the talented team at Ripple Effect, which, as much as I love Ripple Effect, and this is the old Dice EA or Dice LA guys who've fixed Battlefield 4. They made the Pacific DLC for Battlefield 5. It's kind of a shame that that was a studio that was created to um, invigorate EA's like R&D, to bring some new concepts and new titles to the board, and now Ripple Effects talent is being used to just save what should be a pretty traditional FPS shooter. Um, so ideally, EA understands that they need to start to move this IP onto more senior people, and maybe Dice Stockholm is the production side of that, and then Marcus Leto and the Seattle team and Ripple Effect with Zampella get to oversee the actual decision making. That'd be great. But then hearing tweets like, who was it? It was Andy McNamara went on and he said something along the lines of like, "We are figuring out what is possible." That's a concerning statement. Like 2 decades into Frostbite, granted they just reworked it, but also 3 years into this title's development or life cycle, however you want to look at it. So here we are, the game's out, people are paying money for it, things need to start happening, and they're like, "Oh, we need to figure out what we can do." And it's like, well, you should be able to do, you know, what we've always done, which is destruction, which is a scoreboard, which is squads, so they're still having high level conversations about like, what's possible today, and that's a little scary.
yeah, it is really weird, um to think. I wonder if like Frostbite is the issue. Like, that's kind of the common denominator that was there in Anthem.
Yep.
It was,
Yep.
I always remember getting a chuckle out of in Battlefield 5. They didn't have the tech to do double XP. Like, what's up with this engine? I think I kind of want to go back and look. Someone in my Twitch chat actually brought it to my attention. There's a book by Jason Schreier. I think it's called Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, and where
Hmm.
he goes in depth about how like the Frostbite engine killed Anthem. Like, it totally killed productivity. They had so much trouble with it, they couldn't get it to work. And
Yeah. Yeah.
they always talk about the Frostbite, and it just seems like sometimes it could be more trouble than it's worth. That's from a total idiot that doesn't know anything about that stuff outside
Yeah.
looking
I
in, but I
mean,
just see some trends.
that's something that Henderson brought up as well in his little kind of documentary talking about all this, especially with moving, work to home, etc. Um, which concerns me in another way, where it's like, so we just reworked Frostbite. It should at least be a little bit better to work with, or at least you should know what you're dealing with, because you just spent, you know, what should have been 6 months, I think Henderson said, took 18 months to fix that engine or fix it, rework it. So it's either not fixed and it's just as problematic as ever, and now we're seeing reduced graphics, performance issues, etc. Years after that attempt of fixing it, or the people who were trying to fix it still didn't learn it well enough, or separate teams, etc. So even if the engine is a little bit better today than it was 18 months ago, the people working on Battlefield just aren't talented enough or accustomed or have enough experience with that engine, which is just a huge risk for EA to be taking. And it kind of always makes me question, like, what would EA or what would Battlefield look like if it was just on a different engine? And I think Frostbite has a lot of good player-facing features. You know, the destruction, the gunplay feels great, all of that. But for production's sake, look at a game like Apex that gets ridiculous amounts of content and still has good gunplay on the Source engine. And so it's like, maybe they make their own engine from the ground up, like Halo just did with Slipspace. Like that would be dope. And Battlefield's a franchise that deserves that kind of respect. So, get rid of Frostbite or totally fix Frostbite. It sounds like it's been a problem for a long time.
Yeah, and either way, no matter what, like the future of Battlefield is going to be really interesting. Where you talked about the new hires, Zampella, Leto, also Rebecca Kutaz is taking over Dice Sweden from coming over from Ubisoft. So I'm not sure. I'm a little worried of all these influences coming from other games if we're ever going to get like our beloved Battlefield back and that feeling. Because I was actually watching one of Lossie's most recent videos where he was playing Battlefield 1. I'm like, man, I'm going to go back into Battlefield 1. And I was playing it and it almost like got me emotional, like just thinking like how, because it looks so good, it's so immersive. And like, how did we get from this to 2042 where I literally feel like none of that stuff is just, it's crazy. And I think it has to do with a lot of different turnover and stuff and management just kind of being a little bit out of touch. But
yeah, which is like you can kind of feel that permeate the entire game, especially as far as narrative. Like Battlefield 1 was such a cohesive experience. And I just played back through, or I was watching back through the opening cinematic of that game, where you wake up and like you're in World War One. It's just such a beautiful take on such a mature topic, where it's all about, like they push, we push, and sometimes some light breaks through the clouds. And it's like, that's gorgeous.
yeah,
And it's still mature, and we're still having really adult, respectful conversations. And now we're like, oh, we can't have a scoreboard because that's toxic. And you have the beginnings of an incredibly mature game. That opening cutscene with Michael K. Williams and talking about all of these intense politics, disasters and world collapse and economies. And then all of a sudden, you have Angel over there. It's like, oh, that's how it goes.
don't be
It's like, what?
sad.
Like your homeland was just your homeland was just taken over by Russia. What's happening?
And I see
It's
a
just
lot of
not
people.
cohesive.
Right, it totally like removes you from the immersion, and I like, so that's an excellent topic to talk about. It's something I've also thought about, and I wrote this down because I've seen the back and forth argument on Reddit and stuff where people are like, well, if you don't like the specialists and the specialist quips, then you just go play Milsim. Like that's not what Battlefield like has been. Like there is a happy medium between, like, you can still have like immersion, grounded atmosphere. Battlefield 1, primary example, the best like audio visuals to me and immersion in a game, but you can still run around, slide, spin on people, like do arcade. It's still an arcade shooter. So that's like my problem with that argument. Like you don't, just like with most things in the world, like the extremes aren't the answer. Like there is a middle space where you can have immersion, you can have serious moments like that, but you can still have accessible arcade style gameplay that people enjoy. That's not the full Milsim, Tarkov, inertia, can't move thing.
And that concept, has kept this franchise alive for the better part of 2 decades at this point, where it's like there is a middle ground in between kind of Call of Duty's hectic, arena mode, Halo's sci-fi, and then something like Squad or a Milsim game where it's, hardcore Milsim. This is, I think, striking a balance right in the middle of a lot of those games. And it's always brought something new with the bigger matches, the destruction, the vehicles, etc., that you don't get to see in a lot of Milsims or Call of Duty, like other large FPS. So it totally has. Yet even this game is selling millions of copies. Like there's still a reason. Battlefield 5 sold what? It's like 7-8 million copies. Like there's still millions of people out there willing to throw money at this, and there's no reason that they should kill this franchise. But there were millions of people who wanted to buy Anthem, and they killed that within months. So
yeah, but I think the new hires with hiring new studio heads and bringing in Vince and Leto and Kutaz is like saying that they're committed to it. I just think Battlefield is too big of an IP for EA to axe it, but
Yeah, yeah. It's
I
it's
wouldn't
one
think
of their
so.
like few core franchises left alive. Apex, you have your sports like your FIFA, your Madden, Apex. Um, Mass Effect's kind of on ice, although I think there's a new one. Dead Space is being brought back, and then Battlefield. But like none of those hit as hard as a full price title, other than the sports games. Like I don't think anything is hitting as hard as Battlefield in their lineup.
Yeah.
Like
And
Apex is free to play. Granted, it's making a lot of money, but there's not like a flagship title like Battlefield.
and it's almost like Battlefield's going to do the opposite. I feel like they probably made a lot of their money on the front
Mhm.
end.
Yep.
There's reports of 4.2 million people purchased it or whatever. They're going to make their money on the front end, and then I just worry like if they don't have a big player base, then what reason do they have to keep making content for it when they already
Yeah.
got their money when it first came out? Like that's the thing I'm worried about. I'm worried about
Mhm.
this game, and honestly, we can kind of segue into how do they bring it back. And with this game, I don't know. Do you have anything you can think of that would make you want to get back into
Um,
2042, create content and stuff more?
well, I think the first thing we should address is the whole apology situation, which I know fans are pushing for really hard. Is the fans are like, hey, where's our apology? Call of Duty's getting an apology for how messed up that franchise is right now. I say franchise because I mean Warzone, Modern Warfare, and Vanguard to some extent. So it's like, does Dice need to like really owe us an apology, or would you rather them just drop a season one trailer tomorrow and be like, we're doing this, we're doing that, like we have these fixes, like hot fixes are coming on the way, set up a Trello board, like keep the community informed. Like that's I don't really care if EA and Dice grovel, like, oh, we're sorry or whatever, and like their Steam, I think it's Steam is handing back refunds. Like I want to see some action. I want to see a Trello board. Um, I want to see, I want to see somebody like Marcus Leto or Sampello like stand in front of camera and be like, "Yo, we're the new guys here. We're coming in. We're taking it over. This is the list of things we're going to work on. This is what we've heard from you, and we're going to be a little bit more transparent." And I understand EA is a big publicly shared company, but there's got to be some level of communication. And I think things like Destiny has always had very good fan communication in the way that they've structured their, this week at Destiny, the TWAB, this week at Bungie. Uh, you know, they do weekly updates where they post everybody, be like, hey, we're falling behind on one fix, but we have another thing. New cosmetics are coming, new updates are coming, and it's like a week by week thing where they're having a conversation constantly. And all we kind of get is the occasional tweet from what appears to be their private Twitters, which is also something out of concern for those community managers. I think it's quite strange that their Twitters are so transparent with their personal lives at times. Deej from Bungie, at least when I played Destiny, he was the community manager. That guy was very professional. He kind of had, he was the community manager. That was Deej. You knew Deej, and you went to him. But the amount of just different faces and personalities that are on Twitter handling Battlefield's community, while also posting things about their holidays or travels or other stuff, just seems to muddy the water.
It is really weird, and I've said this to a couple people like in the lead up where we both kind of built our channels over this last year in the lead up to it. It honestly
Mhm.
makes there a real need for like a Battlefield news YouTube channel, because you have to
Yep.
be like on Twitter and checking all these different accounts to figure out what's going on. It's great for YouTube. Well, it's great for YouTube up until release. But
Yep.
but like for the average person, I
Mm.
can't imagine like trying to keep up with this game if it's a game that you enjoy and
Oh
you're
yeah.
just not
Yep.
following 50 different accounts, because the communication from the main part is just rough. And we're going to transition to this in here in a little while, is like the AAA versus indie games, and there might be some of that there. Like the indie studios are probably have a lot less overhead to go through, and I feel like the developers are probably getting frustrated, like we need to say this and this, and that's why they're kind of more active on
Yeah.
from their ends. I can see them being a little bit frustrated, but
Mhm.
it's kind
Yeah.
of weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they
I can't imagine because like as much we're and anybody watching this is desperately in the minority of Battlefield players. Like millions of people buy this game, and I guarantee the majority of them get it. It looks cool. They saw the TV commercial. And it's like, cool, another Battlefield. It's modern. I'll buy it. And they bought it. It barely works. And if they're not like, I didn't have a Twitter until I got onto YouTube. Like, you have no idea where this game is going. You think this game's done. Like, this is it, over, bye. Like, okay, they're not telling us anything. We have to follow insiders and stuff on Twitter or go to Reddit to find information about schedules. And it's like the average day gamer, just a dad who jumps on after work a couple times a week has no idea what's happening to this game.
Yeah, and that Battlefield com account, Losty mentioned that it was to combat that issue, and that is a good way to do it. And it was really active before the holidays, and I'm sure they'll get it fired up again. I bet soon once they.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing. This is me talking out of my butt, but I feel like that they're probably just kind of getting back from the holidays and trying to, kind of do triage and say this is what we need to do and this is how we're going to do it. Along those lines is not having Twitter, not knowing whenever there was the mouse issue where you could not look left or right. I can't, like, that was blowing my mind that a casual fan would log into the game and not be able to aim left or right. And how are they going to know that they have to go into their documents and delete their settings? Like, and like they did.
That's the kind of shit we don't have to deal with on console. But I was like, what happened this week? And they're like, you can't fucking look left or right. And I was like, oh, you poor guys.
And it didn't get fixed for like almost a week until the next patch, and then it made it to where I couldn't look up and down in planes.
Yeah.
So like, and then I knew from fixing the last one that I had to do that. But it's like, if you're not on Twitter following that Battlefield.com account, like that should have been a hot fix right away. At least put a message in the menu when you fire up the game that says, hey, on PC, if you have this issue, you need to delete this file.
Yeah. There's been moments I've been playing games like Sandstorm, and I'll run into guys and like I'll be talking to my friends who are all Battlefield fans. And the guys in the lobby will be like, "Oh yeah, Battlefield. Whatever happened to that game? Like that game, like as a franchise." There's like, I haven't heard about it for years. I'm like, they posted 2 trailers and then dropped the game, and it's not working. It's like, the casual fan who's just picking up games here or there, plays on like Xbox Game Pass. They have no idea. And then to see it going on discount or whatever, like, I understand that they do holiday discounts all the time, but release a game. Imagine somebody bought it, plugged it in, couldn't move left or right with their mouse, and then they're like, "What the fuck?" And that was their first and maybe last experience.
Yeah, it was just crazy. Like, to me, I was just put myself in the shoes of a casual fan. But what do you think they have to do to season 1 to turn this thing around? And also, are we to the point where only a free-to-play battle royale is gonna? I know people get mad about battle royales, but are we to the point where it's gonna take that to get people back into the game?
So I think I'm in the minority as far as hardcore fans, but I think, especially at this point, like, a battle royale does not hurt this game at all. If it can bring in casual players, then maybe get them to buy the full game, great. But like I've said on other videos, that expanded content, that battle royale, that hazard zone, that hero shooter, whatever the hell they're gonna do next, comes off the back of a core experience that is solid and meets fans' expectations. If they were to come out with a battle royale tomorrow in the state that 2042 is in, would be just a huge cluster, to be honest. Like, we're over here trying to figure out what the hell's going on with the game we just paid upwards of $120 for, and now like there's that thing going on over there, and it's like, what? Like, are we just jumping ship? We're just letting this one die? Should we check back in with it? But in order to fix this game come season 1, I really think we need to burn it down to the whole point. Like, it needs new title artwork. It needs we need to start reworking those maps. We need maybe a new user interface experience. We need, cosmetics. We need, like, obviously on the back of performance and all of that, but do what they did with Battlefield 5 Pacific. A whole new box art, a whole new title screen, new music. This game needs new music since day 1 anyway. It all needs a fresh coat of paint, because I think people see the current, Battlefield 2042 cover art and whatnot, and there's like, same old, same old. It was terrible last week. It's going to be terrible now. So it's like, totally change it from the ground up, put on a whole new face, and then back that up with maybe some new content. And one thing that I would love to see is if they pulled a Rainbow Six and they started removing the current maps and reworking them season on season, like one at a time, like Rainbow Six did. Because the content needs a fix for sure, but that's going to be a longer term solution. So in the time being, I think getting those things like new concept or new title artwork, new music, um, maybe new voice acting, that would be ideal. Starting to kind of hit those base or not those base, the those like surface level things to just make the experience overall a little bit more polished, and then coming back in and working those bigger objects like reworking the maps, the battle pass content, maybe a campaign down the road or a battle royale down the road. Um, but it needs to be burned to the ground and repainted top to bottom, in
Yeah,
my opinion.
I remember that Pacific trailer. I'm playing it now. That was just such a
Mhm.
hype moment for Battlefield 5. Like I thought like that's when Battlefield 5 is like turning around. I was so
It's
excited and
it's a
played it.
total 180, a total 180 from their first trailer, and that's what was so great about it. Just like they need to, maybe a new trailer, like season one's trailer A has to be fire, and then that has to lead you down this path of like, oh, we got a new actually cool specialist. Oh, there's new music. Oh, there's new artwork. Oh, we're getting a new map, and content is starting to flow. But granted, all of this, comes off the back of performance fixes, UI fixes, bugs, balancing, core gameplay.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that is gonna come down to the like the roadmap. You're gonna have to keep people
Yeah.
there by saying this is where we want to get. This is how we're gonna get there. I'm sure they're probably working on one. Like I can't imagine them not working on one.
Mhm.
But it's like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that needs to be said. And I think map reworking is a great idea. Several games you mentioned, Rainbow Six has done that. PUBG remastered several of their maps. For long-standing games that get supported, I think reworking and remastering maps is perfect. And they honestly like I don't know much that they can do with the layout. I guess just add some cover and stuff to the open maps, but like
Mhm.
make it look more like that cover art where you said maybe change some of the maybe I don't know if they're gonna want to change like the quips and one-liners at the end or whatever, but maybe add some DLC ones that you unlock that are more
Yeah.
hardened and sound more warlike, and just slowly
Yeah.
try to change the atmosphere of this game into more of like
Mhm.
what we
And
thought
it's
it would be.
especially with those quips and whatnot. Like each character only has like three. Like it's not. There's not even a lot of voice acting in this game. That's why like Angel became such a meme. Is because he said the like "Don't be sad" thing every game. So it's like it became ingrained. And at this point, keep Angel's voice lines in the game. Like he's just a psychopath, and I think we should just keep his audio at this rate. He's just a gem.
Yeah,
But yeah, like from the top down, it needs to be reworked. At least on a surface level, and then start trickling that out. Um, but I think the reason we haven't gotten a roadmap yet or anything like that is like I don't know if Dice, at least on a development standpoint, is in the position to make any promises. Every update they tried to push would break something else. So I'm concerned that like yes, they maybe they do want to rework specialists, maybe they do want to push balance changes, server updates, bug fixes, but they, like has been said by some of the managers, like are still figuring out what's possible. So there might be moments where it's like, I don't know if we can get can we get a second map out in the first 6 months? Can we promise an extra specialist or 10 new weapons? You know, because hell, if they came down to the wire this much with this game's performance, I wonder how much of season one they even have built.
yeah, that's true too. I don't know, like maybe the ripple effect that was supposedly working on the live service stuff was had to come over and
Mhm.
try to work on that as much as they could. Like they had to come and try to finish the base game. That's true. And
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a lot of really good content for season one to get people to come back. And
Yeah.
I don't know if they can do it. I really hope so. Um, I really hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they
If
have.
the vanilla content was better, I like if this game launched with the amount of content that it has without the performance issues or anything, I don't think we'd be having this conversation. It's like, okay, cool. Just keep adding. We've been saying that for years with these AAA live services. Hit us with the bare minimum, and then they're gonna build. Like, I get it. Something's gonna break. Something's gonna give in these corporate games. But the fact that they had a limited content, it doesn't work. It's not well balanced. It's missing features. It's a little bit of like having their cake and eating it too.
Yeah, yeah. It's the whole thing is just crazy to me. I think we've covered it pretty well. But
Yeah.
like the whole, just how it didn't turn out, and like how it just so much doesn't feel like a Battlefield to me at this point. And I know there's people out there that are having a good time with it, and that is awesome. Like I'm happy for you. And like I feel like it could, some of it was fun, and we can maybe talk about Hazard Zone just a little bit before we transition, but like what that even was.
Mhm.
But like if
I
you're
actually
having
saw some
fun with
tweets
it,
about
that's
that
great. But
from
like,
some big Battlefield guys today, so plenty to say on Hazard Zone.
well, I guess yeah, we can just talk about Hazard Zone. It goes along with the rest of the
Yeah, I mean,
game.
if you wanna finish your thought, go for it. But
Well, no, I
Hazard
was
Zone is
just
still in the
saying,
conversation.
I was just saying that there's people out there having fun, and I mean, people
Mhm.
can defend the game, and that's great, and that's your opinion, that's your prerogative. You can play whatever you want if you're having fun. Get it, that's great. But you can't really argue with the numbers. You can't argue with the trends, the YouTube searches that we showed earlier, the Twitch viewership. I know that it's not traditionally, Battlefield isn't a highly viewed live stream game, but it's
Mhm.
lower than it was when with the last several games. Player
And
numbers
that's
on
one of those things.
Steam,
It's
like,
like they're chasing trends, and they didn't like. If you're chasing trends, and Twitch is one of those trends, you didn't even hit your trend. So it's like you just, you
which
became
is
unoriginal for nothing.
which is
Yeah.
maybe what they were trying with Hazard Zone. Like, were they trying to make a like a streamable type mode that's has like suspense and like depth to it or something
I
like
think
a
they want streamers to discuss the game in general because, all the way back when we saw content creators who like nobody knew, but they were streamers or something for Call of Duty playing Battlefield. It's like why are Call of Duty guys testing this game and talking about like streaming and shit? And there was a moment I remember clearly where Flackfire, somebody like that. It may have been Flackfire, it may have been somebody else. Henderson came out and Henderson was like, "Hey guys, like the creators are in there now testing stuff." And Flackfire's like, "I didn't get a code. Like, how am I not there?" And he's like, "I don't know what to tell you. It must be the Battlefield, the Call of Duty guys at this point." And
yeah.
like, that's kind of whack that like Lossy or Flackfire or Jack Frags like isn't their go-to team. It's crazy.
They have the perfect mind hive with Lossy,
Hmm.
Flack, Jack Frags, aka Art, like all those legends that have been around, that have played Battlefield, that know, have big communities that
Yeah.
know what the game needs. Ask them. And then if you have what my thing was, what I thought would be the perfect way to do this was if Hazard Zone had some depth to it and make it free to play. If you had a core game mode that the community likes a lot,
Yeah.
that there's a healthy player base, then something like a Hazard Zone that's a little bit more like mainstream or battle royale like would bring people in. And then like, hey, well,
Hmm.
I'll go ahead and try that, and then we could actually grow the Battlefield community, which is what we all wanted. But I was hoping for All Out Warfare to be really strong, everyone like it, all these large YouTubers communities like it, we have a nice healthy community, and then something like
Hmm.
Hazard Zone would bring even more players in, and it would grow, and they would see us all having fun, and it would be all sunshine and rainbows
Um,
prancing off into the
I don't
sunset.
want to. I don't want to bump into you. I don't want to cut you off too much. But speaking of Lossy, he's saying hi in the chat. So
Hey man, thanks
good
for
to
being here,
see.
Lost. I appreciate it, dude. Means a
But
lot. But yeah, that
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see what they can do.
and it kind of like, and I'm gonna bring Lossy back up. Uh, Lossy, I think Danny, maybe somebody else. Danny was asking for somebody to carry him through Hazard Zone, which will inevitably be me and you whenever you decide to get back on 2042. But Hazard Zone, I think, played all right. That squad to squad gameplay kind of lets the mechanics shine, and just having straight up dogfights is awesome. But then, like, I love playing match after match with you because by like our fourth extraction, you're like, oh, I got more data drives to go get more data drives. Like, there's no. If those credits were tied to cosmetics or progression or weapon unlocks, that'd be cool as shit. But it's so self-contained that like the gunplay is cool, the atmosphere is cool. If we can bump up the player count, if we can make it, I would like a third or fourth extraction zone where it just gets more and more intense and whittles the people down. Um, just expand on this like basic idea. But I'm concerned they're just going to cut it at this point, put a traditional battle royale in, like Henderson spoke about months ago. So I don't know. I like the gunplay. It's one of the few things I can get back on, and the performance is all right because it's a smaller player count. But I don't know if they're gonna keep it.
Yeah, and honestly, like the specialist did fit in Hazard Zone. I feel like it was kind of fun for the first couple games until I realized that dark market currency were pointless and data drives
Yep.
were absolutely pointless and all that. But like the first thing was like, hey, I'm gonna bring Angel so we can resupply this. You're gonna play Falk. Like, do we need an Irish for kind of fortifying when
Yep.
we extract? Like, it's there. They could. I feel like they could save Hazard Zone right now. It's silly. Like the lack of depth in that game is somewhat embarrassing because literally if you extract 3 times in a row in your first 3 matches, you never have to worry about currency again. And those kinds of like survival type looter shooters or whatever, the suspense comes from I need to survive. Like I need to survive on this because I don't have a lot of money and I might not be able to buy a gun for the next one. Like that happens. Like that's what that is, and there's none of that.
I think a lot of this conversation goes back like across multiplayer in general, and it's something we don't see in Rush as much. Is these maps are just poorly designed. Like Hazard Zone would be dope if everything was a little bit more intense and like you could turn that corner like in Tarkov and there could be a problem right there, and you're facing a squad. But like we're playing on Hourglass, and it's like I can see the people 2.5 kilometers away. It's like I know exactly where everybody is, and it's like I'm gonna extract, we're gonna pop smoke, and like we might have to fight 4 people off, and it's like it's just everybody sticks to the edge of the map. You can all scan yourselves with the drive scanner. Like the stakes are there in the way it's like, oh, we'll like lose, we'll lose our streak or lose the currency, but it's not. You're not scrapping like you are in Firestorm. Firestorm was terrifying at moments where it's like, oh shit, like the wall of fire is coming behind me, houses are collapsing, things are just getting destroyed. It's like me versus like 3 other people in this last circle. I have no idea where anybody is. I have a gun that I am dog shit with, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to make it happen. But Hazard Zone, it's a little bit too secure for that.
Right. Yeah, there's just not. I had a little bit of that suspense like pit in my stomach when we were going for that ruler of the zone thing, and they could add more stuff like that and bring it back somewhat. It's gonna have to be free to play too. I feel like because I don't think the core Battlefield community that's left is really gonna be able to help it out. And by the way, this video that I'm playing now is from USA Specialist, and it's 5 things he would do to fix it, where he's actually redesigning the UI of the game, and it's going to be pretty cool. But I'll leave it play for a little bit.
Yeah, that should be out soon. Thanks for the promotion.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think Hazard Zone could step away if it had more content. If it was a little bit more robust, I think it would be a great free to play mode. But my concern is if that went free to play right now, the people who haven't played 2042, who are on the fence, would just be turned off anyway. Like I don't think that's a strong showing for this game. Nothing really is. So it's like, yeah, you might bolster your player count a little bit, but there's not even cosmetics. So it's like thinking from a corporate standpoint, like they're not even, fooling somebody into buying their cosmetics with this free to play. Like there's nothing there. So you're gonna go in, they're gonna get maybe a 10 streak, and be like, oh, cool, this has no purpose. Like it's okay moment to moment gameplay, but there's no cosmetics, there's no rewards, there's not even purchasable things or microtransactions, and they're gonna step away. So I think they need to get it in a stronger place. And like Warzone came out months after Modern Warfare, and that hit pretty hard. That was robust. It built back into their own franchise and their own system. Um, and it's just like, and even Portal, as good as Portal is not holding on to players too well.
That was always like everyone said, if you don't like this, just play Portal. But like, there's not a ton of content in Portal. And my biggest problem with Portal that I said the whole time was like, man, it's really cool that you can make a crazy game mode and something cool and fun and stuff like that. But like, okay, I've just created a server. I need 64 people to fill it. I don't have 64 friends, and it just sits there empty. And like, I don't know how you get people. Like the average person without a big community isn't going to be able to get people in there.
Yeah, and funny enough, like I actually had a server. I was putting on TDM servers the first like month of this game, and they would fill. They would fill fast because people are like, oh shit, just straight up fucking TDM. And I was like, that's all we want, dude. Like just straight up TDM. That's all it was. 2042 gadgets, everything. It was like fuck it, TDM. I want TDM. And then people are doing Rush, and people are like, hell yeah, Rush, just Rush. And I was like, the goofy games like the winter whatever the hell it was, the candy cane game, like cool. It kind of highlighted some of the mechanics that are not great, especially on crossplay. There was some wild shit happening with meleeing, like PC versus console just got whacked sometimes. But it's like we just want domination, TDM, and Rush. Like we don't, we don't, we don't like need all of this necessarily. And thank God they brought Rush back. Um, but
Yeah, that was a
they're also
close
starting
one.
to dilute the player base. What happened?
No,
What
they
Rush being
taking away
brought?
Rush. Yeah, that was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm playing
And
an
like,
ad.
look, I'm glad they brought it back, but they really should have just been like, "Hey guys, it was scheduled to be taken down. The server took it down. We'll put it up in 5 days." And like, crisis averted. I think we would have understood. But instead of saying anything, they're just like, "Oh, it's back." It's like, okay, like obviously, we see what happened. Like it was probably scheduled for takedown, or they saw their player count because the player count did drastically drop after Rush was gone. So, they put it back. And all they could have been like, hey, we see you like Rush. We'll just keep it there. Like, just give it a few days. It'll be back. And it would have been fine. And that's all we're looking for. Like, we don't need to know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. Just tell us what's happening next week, you know?
And I wonder, like, and they need to fix the portal in XP as well, or XP and portal, not the portal in XP. XP doesn't need portal. Portal needs XP.
Yep.
Sorry,
Yep.
I'm old. I need some whiskey. And the other thing is, like, I wonder what goes on in the company when they're switching all this leadership. I wonder if there's like if we're in a transition period right now where maybe in McNamara's tweet where he's like, we're trying to figure out the scope of this. They might be, getting used to the new leadership and what kind of their main core things that they want to do when they're producing a game, like what they want it to be, and they're still figuring out a direction there. Because I feel like it's a weird time. It's probably a really challenging time for the developers to switch bosses like midstream, like a few weeks after a game came out, and that's pretty wild. Like that whole thing.
Yeah. I've like talked to friends about this, and I was like, you know how much money I would pay just to like sit down with like Vince Zampella and just be like, what's your vision for Battlefield? Like as a fan, like what as a fan, how do you view the series? Like, what do you think it should be doing better? Where do you think it should be going? And then like as a manager, where what would you like to do? Like what would your first day? What would your first 100 days look like at Dice? Or as head of Battlefield? Just to hear Zampella's thoughts on this because and also to kind of defend him a little bit because I feel like on Twitter people are like, oh, he's just another like Call of Duty guy. Well, he made Modern Warfare and he was on the original Infinity Ward team. So he made the OG Modern Warfare, which I think we can all agree is a great, spectacular game, especially for its era. He then came out with Apex. He was like one of the lead creators on Apex. Founded Respawn Entertainment, and then Jedi Fallen Order, which was that long-awaited EA single-player game. So I think yes, he comes from a Call of Duty background, but he's been pretty good at jumping genres and understanding what fans want when they like it. Because he made Apex Battle Royale, but that was in 2018 when it was like still trendy, and it was probably the one that executed it the best, and it had a lot of good concepts and content. So, as much as he is coming from a background of other games, especially Call of Duty, I think he's a guy who understands what players want when they want it. And he sounds like he's at least in the fan base enough that he might actually have some interesting hot takes on Battlefield. Does he want to see it go in a more milsim direction? Is that what casual players want? Because that's something we've talked about. Is these casual games are getting a little bit too casual, and I think a lot of us are moving back to things like Rainbow Six or Sandstorm. Halo's multiplayer was doing very well for a while. These more uh, intimate multiplayer experiences, and Battlefield's kind of just big and casual and flimsy. You know, so I would just love to hear his thoughts on the franchise
It would
as a
be
fan and as a manager.
it would be awesome, and I mean that just popped into my head. What you said would be amazing to have like a sit down developer roundtable with Rebecca
Mm.
Kutas, Marcus Leto, and
Marcus, yeah.
Yeah, and then and Vince, like on a 3 round table
And
with
like this
like
is something they did in the lead up to this game as well. They had Zampella, Gabrielson, and I don't think it was Fauzi Mesmar, the guy, the head of design who quit, but it was somebody like that.
it was another
I can't
senior
remember who it was.
designer, yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's like we had these conversations. It was great, and like those guys could field questions and talk. Like these are guys with decades of experience, um, and they just stopped it.
it
They're
would
gone.
be it would be so interesting and so enlightening to have those three and
Yeah.
have it like moderated by Freeman, the community manager, and ask some of the
Hmm.
questions and maybe have like a little bit of a live chat going and have some people that can go through and pick some questions from the community and just like give this like fragmented disoriented player base like some leadership or some light at the end of the tunnel that we realize this is where the game is and just let us know like what their vision is because it's completely new leadership and yeah we have no idea like how they envision the game.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because like Fauzi Mesmar, and I don't want to like crap on the guy too much. That guy worked on a My Little Pony game, and then he was the director of Candy Crush, and he was amazing at those jobs. That guy racked in $4.8 billion in 1 year as Candy Crush's creator or director. It's like that dude really, really is good at Candy Crush, but he maybe shouldn't be the head of game design on a first person shooter, especially something that is nuanced, is militaristic as Battlefield. And it doesn't sound like it all went his direction either, maybe. Like, I don't know what the man's vision totally was, but coming from a mobile game uh, market, maybe he was the guy who liked the specialists. But there's moments the specialists don't really feel like they're totally ingrained in the game. So it's like, it's all disconnected. Like that opening cutscene, where Michael K. Williams is talking about, the collapse of the world and super intense and super mature, and then you go in and then it's like, today I'm proud. Like that's the voice acting you get. And there's just like a massive disconnect, and I'm like, where was he? Like, which side of the fence was he on? And which side of the fence was somebody like Oscar Gabrielson on, who's also now gone after 10 years? So, and that
Yeah,
I'm interested to see how that pans out, losing Gabrielson, because he's been there since Battlefield 3 essentially. So, was he somebody pulling this vision off track, or was he maybe the last guy fighting to keep it on track from the Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4 era?
yeah, who knows. There's a lot of questions that like honestly I hadn't even really been thinking about because they're all uh we just don't know what they're thinking about. We don't know what they want. So anyways, would you feel comfortable transitioning into AAA versus indie games? Think we got
I'm
Battlefield covered?
totally comfortable with that. Yeah,
Um
yeah, I think there's a little bit of a discussion here that ties back to Battlefield pretty well.
yeah, so essentially when USA and I were talking like when we kind of left the Battlefield franchise, not we didn't leave it, but like when the game wasn't doing it for us and we looked for other games, it almost seemed like some of the indie titles were like starting to fill that void and we were finding a lot more enjoyment out of them. And then it brings up this whole discussion of the AAA space versus indie games. And I would you consider Embark Studios indie? I think so. But like you have all these
Yep.
guys and ladies and guys that are leaving to go to Embark, and it's just like there's a shift from AAA, and it just makes you think like, did they hate it? Like, is there too much red tape? Is there to go through it for AAA studios and like the advantages of having the creative flexibility of an indie studio?
Yeah. Also, shout out. I'm looking at the YouTube graphics. Great little topics list.
Oh
Love
yeah,
it.
yeah.
It's all working somehow.
It's
Um,
just as much to keep me on track as it is for everyone watching to know what's going
mhm.
on.
Yeah. So going back to your question, I think there might be a sweet space developing right below the triple A's and at the top of like the indie developers, because like Insurgency Sandstorm, a game that I'm absolutely loving with my friends, and to the point, one of the main reasons I don't get on Battlefield 2042 is because my friends don't want to deal with it. They would rather go play Sandstorm. They feel like that's a better, more fair, and more polished experience. So, you know, I don't even have people to play with, and almost unless I'm playing with you, and you don't really want to play it. So getting into games like Sandstorm is great, but Sandstorm, I think technically has a production or producer, so they're not indie. I don't think I would just call them like not AAA. And I think those games like Tarkov, like World War Three, Sandstorm, there's some other good examples of like not even just shooters, but these just under AAA experiences where we're finding like absolute gems. And even from EA, there's been a couple games that are not these AAA huge games, like Jedi Fallen Order, like Squadrons, EA's Star Wars Squadrons was a phenomenal game that they refused to put a live service on or update with content. He said it's one and done, $40, take it or leave it. And it's like that was a more polished, more fun and competitive experience right there than their AAA multi-million dollar IPs. So I think there is a space that's like, I don't know if we want to call it like the double A instead of the triple A space that is like really becoming fruitful. And if you want to put like Arc in there, or Embark in there, that's probably the right place because they haven't released a title yet. So, I wouldn't say that they're like a triple A developer just yet. But things are falling off the top end, and then you're always going to have your chaos at the bottom. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I feel like there's a, like you said, there's a sweet spot, and I think that's a super good point.
Mhm.
Because at the upper end, they have quotas to meet. Like we have to meet this
Yep.
revenue. Like a lot of higher up folks, people's job depends on it, so we have to make this much money. So it's almost like the games are developed around that. At a certain point, you get to a small enough studio where like we need to make a really good game, so it makes some waves. The money will come later, but like
Mhm.
we have to make a really good game that people enjoy playing for it to be successful, rather than we need to make this much revenue off of microtransactions and whales and things like that. So like I
Mhm.
think there really is, and I've been really enjoying Tarkov. Like I got sucked into Tarkov on this wipe. It really hooked me. It's kind of a crazy, deep, insane game. Like honestly, I was excited for Hazard Zone because I wanted that like looter
Mhm.
shooter, like not necessarily a battle royale, but some of that same suspense. And it didn't do it for me with Hatchet Zone. Obviously, it was way too shallow. And then I was like, well, I'll try Tarkov because I tried Tarkov before and it was like too much. And this time I'm like, I'm just gonna do it.
Yep.
So I did, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I kind of got addicted to it and having a lot of fun. And I looked, that studio over in Russia only has like 70 employees total. Like that's everybody. So I would assume like 50 developers
Mhm.
maybe that's working on that game. So that's it's crazy to me that there's that few of folks working on
There's
Tarkov.
a a great example of this. Tell me if my mic sounds weird. I don't know if I
It's going
bumped the
good so
button,
far,
but
surprisingly.
so far, a great example of this is Ghost Recon Wildlands versus Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Ghost Recon Wildlands, yes, was a content dry game, but that became one of my favorite multiplayers I've ever played. That was something during college I got on every night for the better part of like a year, 18 months. Played ranked, went hard. It was like, it felt like there was like 20 guys keeping this game up to date with like, they were getting, you know, pretty cool like milsim content. They were adding in sponsored brands like 511 Tactical. It was just like a super cool, you know, kind of strategic third person, uh, milsim esque experience. Flash forward to Breakpoint, and they went all in with this like, now they have all of this fancy production stuff, and they had some like Navy SEAL guy like talking about the game, and it's gonna be all cool and all this and all that. And it just became a much cheaper, goofier, more like broad experience. While Wildlands was about taking down cocaine cartels, um, in not Brazil. I can't remember exactly. Colombia, maybe Colombia, because they got in
Can't
trouble with
remember.
that whatever country it was. It was about the cartels in South America, and it was like sending in an American specialist task force to deal with it. And then on the side of this was like a ranked multiplayer that was very tactical, third person, very PUBG esque. But then moving to Breakpoint, and they like stripped all of the real world references, stripped all of the real politics from it, and totally just nerfed the narrative. And then also the production was horrific. If anybody's played Breakpoint, those face animations, that voice acting, the production went downhill. The scope was too big, and I think it became too big for its britches in a way. And while Wildlands was kind of that double A sweet spot where it's like not a crazy game, but it's satisfying, it's working, they're doing meaningful updates, and then Breakpoint like went for the fences and totally struck out. And they're still to this day like trying to repair that game, 2 years on. I mean, the Tom Clancy license in general is kind of you're seeing this progression.
It's weird.
What the hell is that one? X Defiant? Is
X
that
Defiant,
the arena
yeah,
shooter they announced, and then everyone's like, "What the hell is this?"
yeah.
Also, they're announcing like a battle royale. I think they might have taken the trailer down. I can't. Frontlines, I think it was called.
Frontlines, yep.
Uh,
It was a
yep,
Ghost. It was
and
a Ghost
they
Recon.
got shit on for that. It was Ghost Recon, of course,
Yeah.
or Tom Clancy at least. But it's just like you guys had these amazing concepts, and just their real world, they did exactly what they could. They bit off what they could chew, and now they just keep pushing for these wilder and wilder things. And Ubisoft in general is a company that we've seen, the Division, Destiny killer, it's gone. Ghost Recon, that whole brand is kind of killing itself after Breakpoint. They're getting shut out with the X Defiant and those kind of games.
Mm-hmm.
And Ubisoft, I think, crossed that threshold of like, you know, good content into like this weird world of like microtransactions, NFTs. Ubisoft is ridiculous, but I think they're a good showcase of this triple A versus like just below triple A space
Yeah, because it's almost
at this point.
like the AAA. Do they just want that money and like they're? Is it a thing?
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't want to be ageist. I don't want to show ageism, but like, are they seeing games like Fortnite and Minecraft and games for a younger audience having a lot more success and microtransactions and things like that? And that's why they're doing like a crazy they're putting Tom Clancy on a game that's X Defiant that was just like colorful and crazy, and it looked like the latest Far Cry.
I have no idea. Like, if I've learned anything about this entire industry over, I'd say the past since the Fortnite era. And when I say Fortnite, like 2017, like when it started, um, 2017, something like that sounds about right. But like when that battle royale, those casual games started to take off. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that this industry is super reactive and they don't anticipate trends. They will much rather react. So you're seeing everybody, Halo 5 is a great example. Breakpoint's a good example. 2042, we're still kind of seeing it. There's a lot of games that went down this colorful, fun, more broad appeal, and in doing so, kind of lost their identity and lost any depth or detail that they had in of themselves. Look at Battlefield 1 to Battlefield 5. I think that's a great example where you're you're taking all of the guts out of what made Battlefield really gave it its own personality, and they try to Fortniteify it a little bit. And I think you saw that with loot crates, and Halo 5 became kind of colorful and jumpy and spammy. Battle royales took off, and it just became a little bit more sacrificing the core people who are going to actually pay for these games, actually keep them alive, and seeing if it was worth cashing in for a quick buck on the casual fan. And I think we're still years out feeling those ripples. You're muted, Crash.
Sorry, the dogs were barking.
Yeah.
The other game that's indie game that I was wondering if you'd seen or talked much about was World War III, and I know you haven't got a chance to play it because it's only on PC right now. But that's another game that's really interesting to me, and I don't know if they could technically be called indie anymore because they also have a publisher now, but that's a lot smaller. And there's some other games like Ready or Not, and that did really well, and some other even smaller games that they have a player base and people enjoy them. But World War III is really interesting to me because it's close to Battlefield, and when I play it, I would almost say that it's like almost like insurgency type movement and feeling, but like with an old school Battlefield. Like it plays like an old Battlefield, like a Battlefield 4, and I think that game has potential. Along the lines of you being on console, I did see they have a content creator program, and they said they eventually want to expand that to console players. So maybe, if it does well on PC when it goes free to play, Hell Let Loose is another good one. When it does become free to play, that maybe they'll get going to console too.
Yeah, there's a yeah that middle ground is just rich. I really think these AAA games, almost all of them, are pretty jaded in some fashion. And Halo has been a really interesting story because I think Halo had so much going for it, and it still kind of managed to drop off eventually. And for the life of me, I just can't get back into Halo. I can't do it. But it's beautiful. It has a beautiful campaign. It has a story. There's content, or there should be content coming for it eventually. It's more content than Battlefield. So
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
I-
it's a wacky space.
I'm rooting for World War Three. They have some
Hmm.
things to fix. The audio, like their customization and like gun customization and character customization should be like the gold standard for shooters moving forward.
Yeah.
On the opposite end of the spectrum is their audio. Like the audio is the worst of any shooter I've ever played. They did say in Discord that they were working on it. Honestly, with World War 3, if they fix audio and they add maps and the maps are designed along the same like what they are, then there's going to be
Mhm.
something there. I really feel like, and I think like the customization and cosmetics add a lot of replayability to it and kind of give you a little bit of an RPG type feel, like you want to make your character look awesome. It has a class
Yeah.
system, which is wild to think about. Um, but like
Legacy.
audio is, ooh, audio is rough.
Yeah.
But they said they're already reworking on it. I'm sure they're aware of it, and it's just something to keep an eye on. I'm honestly to the point after getting burned by some of these AAA games that um, I am I'm rooting for these smaller studios.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've been having a lot more fun the past 6 months, year especially. Sandstorm, for sure. What else? I played Apex pretty heavily, and that's definitely a AAA game. But like, that's one of very few games currently that is AAA that is like totally functional.
Yeah, a lot of people are
Um,
playing Apex.
yeah,
And then
yeah, we'll see. I really hope World War Three comes to console. I think getting to console will help a lot of these smaller games get massive exposure, especially with companies like Sony and Microsoft really heating up how they're buying out developers. And not necessarily that I want to see these devs get bought out and then like dictated by a larger entity, but getting like a World War Three on Game Pass would be massive. That would help expand it to millions of people so easily.
yeah, that would be a ton of people right off the bat. But I'm trying to think if there's any others. Like lately, I've been playing mostly Tarkov with like a little bit of Rainbow Six Siege in there, and that's one of the reasons that I started this show is like I realized that I might not be a first person shooter gamer that's gonna be satisfied with one game anymore. Like I feel
Mhm.
like I've hit platinum a couple times in Rainbow Six. I'm up to level 25 in Tarkov. I have like 400 some wins on Rebirth Island and Warzone. So it's like that's why I kind of wanted to start this show and talking about like different shooters and stuff because that's kind of where I'm at right now. I've lost my faith in the I'm gonna play Battlefield when it releases up until the next one, maybe sprinkle in a little COD and then because I feel like
Mhm.
a lot of people back in the day, like in the heyday of AAA shooters, like that's what you did. You looked forward to the new.
Yeah.
And it might have been when I was more casual. That's where the marketing could reach me. But like I just really looked forward to the
Mhm.
AAA stuff. But I've recently started trying all these
Mhm.
smaller studio games and really enjoying them. And I find myself really really rooting for them as well.
Yeah, I actually miss playing Battlefield in that fashion because like Battlefield One, I was like in the top couple like hundred or like top thousand like medics in the world on console or something. Like sweat that game out. Like I was super competitive on it. I would play that game every night for a few hours after class, and it was just like I can get on reliably, have a good experience, be competitive as much as you want to argue about like Battlefield One's competitive nature. And just go out there and like play hard, get a bunch of games, have the game consistently work, um, and always have like maybe not content rewards in Battlefield One, but incredibly rewarding and diverse gameplay constantly. We'd play Frontlines every night, occasionally Operations, and it was just like I could go out there and just you know sweat and like get really competitive in these lobbies and just go round after round and track my stats on the scoreboard and a stat tracker. It
That's
was insane.
toxic.
um but it's like Battlefield 2042, I feel like I'm quite a bit worse at. I don't know if it's just the way that Battlefield 2042 plays, or if I'm just not caring as much, or I'm just washed up. Um, but it's like even if I go out there and have a like baller game, it doesn't mean anything. It's not going to get me any cosmetics. It's not going to get me any achievements. It's not going to get me any stats from my page. Like there's I can go out there and like just drop huge games occasionally, and even if I do have a good game, other than the clip, and even the clips, like even if I do get a good play, it's like my left arm is tweaking the hell out when I'm trying to run with
Yeah,
Valk, and it's just like there's always something degrading the
yeah.
experience,
Or you
even when
shot a
it's a
bunch
good
of
play, where I'm
bots.
yeah, or I'm like getting hitched on geometry, or the server's tweaking, or my teammates are raging or something.
I think I,
Battlefield 1 was a pretty consistent experience.
I think we're kind of entering a time when, for me anyway, and it seems like for a lot of people, like that multiplayer game loop of just spawn in, die, repeat is
Yep.
shoot, repeat, shoot, repeat. Like it's getting kind of where people need something more now. And I kind of
Yep.
found myself getting that way. Like when Battlefield came out 2042 and I just didn't really enjoy it. I kind of took an introspective look at myself. I'm like, like, is it me or is it the game? I think in this case, it's a little bit of both, but like, I got
Mhm.
Battle Royale did this to me, and Tarkov has taken it to another level. Like I've gotten a little bit addicted to that adrenaline rush you get in a high stakes shooter, and that's why I like Siege
Yeah.
as well. Um,
Yeah.
but
And
that
yeah, just like I love Sandstorm. I would rather play with, five of my close friends and like go really hard, and especially on a game like Sandstorm. That's a pretty small community on console, so I run into the same, 100 players every night. So like we have relationships and like competition with these players constantly when we're playing. And it's great to get on and be like, oh shit, like there's, a guy we played with a million times and he's on the enemy team. And it's like, we get to in that game that has all chat, that has a scoreboard, that has all this shit, has team killing, it could become a very toxic game, and that's almost the fun of it. Is like you're shit talking, people are watching you in the kill cam, they're talking shit to you if you don't like it's kick or clutch, um,
the voice chat
and
has
yeah,
added
that's not
that.
an experience. Yeah, and it's not. I understand that's not an experience you want with all of your players, but it's also an M-rated milsim game. Just like Battlefield is still an M-rated military shooter. We nobody under the age, and I understand there's a lot of people buying it, but if you're buying into a M-rated mature military experience, like, you know, healthy competition, even just a scoreboard should be fine. I understand, not, filtering the chat and having like a report feature and all of that's fine. But some sense of competition and some sense of having my life as a player matter is
Yeah,
a lot more fun. And it's just like in these 128 player matches on 2042 where it's like 600 tickets or 400 tickets. So like you spawn, you die, you spawn, you die, game starts crashing. It's just like there's no real stakes. There's no real
yep,
catch to, make me really other than trying to get a clip, like that's pretty much it.
yeah. Honestly, if Insurgency had like a search and destroy mode, like that would be almost my ultimate game. Like if it had, and it does it.
The
Your mic's doing
fi-
it. You're not
oh,
back.
I should be now.
You're back.
Okay. Um, we made it very far without the mic
Yeah, we
breaking out.
did. That thing
Uh,
champ.
uh, what is it called? Firefight. Firefight is probably the closest thing. So what Firefight is, it's a 3-point domination game mode, but it's round based. So it's you spawn with your team, go to take the objectives. You either all get wiped and the match, kill the enemy team and the match, or you capture all three objectives with each capture respawning your team. So there is a good amount of like map knowledge and like, hey, we're gonna cap B. That means you're gonna spawn on the enemy C flags, like flipping the flags and all of this. But it's 10v10. It's pretty much like an arena search and destroy type of game. Um, and it is super competitive, and it's really based on map knowledge. And on console, there's no aim assist or anything like that, so players are a little bit slower. They're a little bit more cautious, and it requires a lot more skill. There's no slide canceling. There's no jumping. You un ADS if you fall or jump, so it's like
And
you occasionally see like these young players come in, like these level twos or something come in, and they like go to slide or like hip fire or something, and it's like that
I
that doesn't look
absolutely love console games with no aim assist, and Siege was that way. So I started playing Siege on
yeah.
Xbox. It's just hilarious. Like some people can't hit
Mhm.
anything, and it's way harder, and it just makes some of the gunfights a lot more interesting. Then I'm like, well, if I want to play Siege competitively, I need to play it on my PC. So I did that, and it's like everybody
Mhm.
laser beams you, and you can't. Like I
Yeah.
honestly had more fun with console Siege than that. But that you bring up a good point, like with the toxicity and stuff, is the same. That's added a lot to Tarkov this wipe, and that's VoIP and proximity chat.
Mhm.
I have played it, mm, maybe 100 or maybe even more hours of Insurgency on PC, mainly when it kind of first
Mhm.
released on PC. But some of the funniest moments are having that proximity chat. Same with Squad, and in Tarkov now they added it, and it completely changed the game. Like trying to reason with people,
100%.
talking shit. Like proximity chat is
Yeah.
just like it changes
Proxy
stuff.
chat, yeah, and Sandstorm is great because there's been a couple moments where it's like we'll stack up on a door or something. We're kind of quiet, and then right as we all stack up, we all just like start yelling in proxy chat. And the dude's like, "What the fuck?" So he
Hmm.
just hears like six people running up the stairs yelling at him. So we're throwing
Yeah, it's
flashbangs and
awesome
shit. It just becomes such it's like I said in the video. It's like it's a way more natural way to interact. It brings back a little bit of like that couch co-op kind of thing. You're pushing, you're shoving, you're talking shit, you're having fun with it. It's an M-rated game. It's for adults. Like there can be a little bit of healthy competition for sure, and then a little bit of talking shit is fine, I think.
for sure. Is it cool if we take like just a minute break? I'll play the bumper and go dark for just a second. I need to use the restroom like really quick, and then we can
Okay,
finish out with what's coming in 2022.
go for it.
Let's do it. All right, I'll be right back.
Try to catch me howling at the moon. Try to catch me howling at the moon.
I am back. Yes, I'm old. I have a tiny bladder, and hopefully it's not my prostate. That's all I can say. Um, yeah. So I guess do you want to? I'm trying to think if there's any other stuff we want to talk about that's AAA versus indie. I don't think so. Do you have anything else?
No, I think we're
Like
pretty
indie wise?
good. We'll have to wait for those updates. But no, looking forward to 2022. I kind of want
Honest.
to see, obviously, the big story is like watching where Battlefield goes or whatever, or if we get like World War III expanded to new platforms, that'd be dope. Um, but especially after Battlefield 2042 and some of these past games, over the past, oh boy, over the past couple years, like there's no AAA releases that I can give a hell about. I'm not excited. I'm not marking my calendar. If anything, I care more about what Insurgency adds to the game, like month after month. I'm excited to see where 2042 goes, just more so as a drama.
Yeah,
Um,
it's gonna be a show. Like just seeing what happens with it.
Forza Motorsport 8, I think, is the only game I give a shit about. Because I was a huge Forza Motorsport fan, and we haven't gotten one of those in like 4 years. So Horizon's killing it. Like Motorsport's definitely on the back burner, but there is a new one coming at some point. So seeing if like World War III or somebody like that or something like that comes to console, there's especially in the AAA space, nothing
Are you excited at
nothing
all
exciting.
for if it's Modern Warfare uh 2?
Uh,
Roman numeral 2?
I'll be yeah, I'll be excited. Are we gonna get DMCA'd now? Um,
We said it.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see the game. Maybe play the campaign, and just finally experience like a well polished modern multiplayer or modern shooter game. Because we haven't really gotten that since the 2019 Modern Warfare, and say what you want about that multiplayer, that campaign, those graphics, that storytelling, that sound design, that animation. There's a whole interview with the head of animation at Infinity Ward, and he was like, "Yeah, none of this is mocapped. It's all done by hand. Like we went in, we rigged everything by hand, and then like matched sound design to it. Like you can hate the design decisions and the microtransactions and that kind of shit in Modern Warfare currently, or any of the Call of Duties right now, totally don't work. But the amount of craft and love that they put into some aspects of those games, I think is phenomenal, and I would be excited to play that game on a campaign front just to experience the craft more than anything else. But I don't know if I can really get into Call of Duty. Hell, please give me an FOV slider on console. That'd be amazing.
Hmm.
Um, it's like it's just not an incredibly great experience for me. Uh, like we were saying, those spawn die type of games, and Call of Duty is exactly that sometimes.
Yeah,
I'm just not. I've never been a huge Call of Duty fan. 2019 is the only one I really played in the past years,
me
so
too.
it might be something I pick up.
That game like really
Mm,
reset the franchise kind of. I thought that was like a overall pretty well liked. A lot of the
yep.
multiplayer like pros and stuff thought the multiplayer sucked, but like as like a casual shooter
Yeah.
player, I really enjoyed it. Then Warzone completely changed Call of Duty, and it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with Warzone, if it is in fact
Hmm.
Modern Warfare 2, and also for the first little bit of Call of Duties when they release, I do enjoy playing Search and Destroy because you,
Yep.
you get a little bit of that. You get some. It's like kind of like Siege, like you get that round based tension that builds up a competitive shooter a little bit. It's pretty fun as long as there's not like but they always put in weird like score streaks are annoying to me. I just kind of
Hmm.
want, and that's why I said like if you had Insurgency Sandstorm with like a straight up search and I don't know if I said that right. Insurgency Sandstorm with a straight search and destroy type game mode without like all the
Hmm.
extra bells and whistles and stuff, and it was just shooter versus shooter and positioning, and
Yeah.
like that would be perfect for me.
Yeah.
I would like that a lot.
Yeah. My issue with Call of Duty's multiplayer more than anything is I feel like there's a lot of pieces that just aren't. They're not correctly aligned. Where it's like, okay, so 2019 added the ability to peek and like close doors and go quiet and like mask your footsteps, but then like slide canceling and like drop shotting is still there. So it's like there's moments of like a slower paced military tactical game, and there's moments where I should just hit fire 360 jump off this roof. Um, and then you mix in, the kill streaks and whatnot. It just becomes a weird like, are we being tactical? Are we playing a casual jumpy slidey shooter? So it's like moments like it's closer to Apex, and there's moments it's closer to Sandstorm, and that those kind of misalignments annoyed the hell out of me. So
Yep.
I don't know. I'll probably try. I'll probably pick it up. I'll be interested to see what happens. But more so because it's a Titan game. It's gonna affect the industry once again, just like 2019 was not just huge for that franchise, but it was huge for the industry. Like it showed that people wanted a dark, gritty, modern, military, mature game. And then Battlefield kind of went that direction, and then kind of backpedaled. Um, and then even Call of Duty itself is like kind of going back on that line. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see what happens.
Just seems like I don't know. I feel like the younger generation might pay for cosmetics and microtransactions. It feels like because it seems like a lot of that stuff is catered
Mm,
that way, and that just might be me being an old man, get off my lawn kind of guy. But I don't know. It just seems like that. And then I guess we technically wouldn't be an FPS news show if we didn't talk about the FPS that comes out in 3 days. Playing some of that gameplay on the screen is Rainbow Six Extraction comes out on the
mm.
20th, and I think it's going to be on Game Pass. I'm thinking about on day one. I think I saw, so I'm honestly thinking about doing the Game Pass trial just to play it a little bit. I like the gunplay and movement and stuff of Rainbow Six Siege quite a bit, so I just have a hard time getting into a PvE shooter. But where you could play it with friends and it's co-op,
Mhm.
then maybe that might be okay. I used to have fun with Left 4
Yeah,
Dead. It seems like a zombie shooter.
yeah. I don't know. I haven't like really been able to get into Rainbow Six. Like that came out 6 years ago. Rainbow Six Siege.
It's crazy.
Um, and maybe in some ways it still feels like a 6-year-old game at this point. Um, yeah, my issue with Extraction, I think, like many people, is it just doesn't feel fresh. It doesn't feel super different. It might be a fun expression of that franchise. Like it might be a fun new experience, but still, I think a lot of people would agree that it feels like an overpriced DLC and nothing new. You know, Ubisoft has been trying to do new things and they keep getting kicked back down. You know, like X Defiant or Frontlines, and they won't take their time to sit back and like make a truly good full title. It feels like, other than Assassin's Creed, perhaps. It's like, they have the talent there, they have the production, they have the means, they have all the money. But it's like, I don't know. I think after years and years of Rainbow Six, people are expecting a little bit more, and I don't know if other than drawing in on Game Pass because I have Game Pass, like I don't know. I don't even know if I want to give it that much attention because it feels like a
Yeah.
slightly lazy attempt. So
Siege is
we'll see.
cool to me. And I think it's one of their last great shooters. I got into it late as well, so
Hmm.
I got my ass stomped in that game for like 6 months at least. But
Yeah, I played
um
that like day one. That was
yeah,
back in the good old days when
but
when it was like a police shooter, actually.
what I do appreciate about it, and that's why I kind of thought about trying Ready or Not, but again, it comes to that, can I get excited about PvE? I don't know. But the way they support Rainbow Six Siege, like, yeah, I feel like that needs to be commended. With the new
Oh yeah.
operators, they change the UI, they make gameplay balance changes constantly. And like you said, that was one of our examples for reworking maps. They went back and said, hey, some of these maps aren't what we
Yep.
thought they would be. We learned, and we're fixing them. So, um, yeah, I honestly think that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I do think their live service somehow is actually, I don't want to say good at this point, but I like, who the hell is actually doing like a decent live service? Call of Duty is at least delivering content. Rainbow Six is delivering content. I know we've kind of gone back and forth with they're not getting operators. Sometimes they're not getting a map, and people are pretty upset about that. But it's also, you're 6 years into this service. Like you got to be kind of scraping the barrel for ideas that are functional. How much more can you add to this game without changing the concept a little bit?
Right.
I mean, I don't think anybody has. What's a good live service? You know, Halo Infinite's not doing well. Battlefield doesn't even know what it's doing at all. Battlefield 5's was pretty terrible. Uh, Siege is at least consistent, if not a little lackluster. Call of Duties, I think Modern Warfare's may have been the best at this point. Apex is all right, but I don't like their live events. I think their live events demand an incredible amount of time to
Yeah.
get those items without paying. Um, so maybe Apex and Modern Warfare 2 are the best ones, and Apex is definitely bringing in cash. If anything, it's it's supplementing Battlefield 2042's failure. So I don't know if there's anything else out there that's very good.
They're all, the ones that are decent are all kind of the same with just maps
Hmm.
and stuff. And the conspiracy theory in me is wondering if like the Battlefield has been trickling the content so much that they want premium back, but they insist that the premium's not good because it splits the player base. But
Yeah, I wouldn't even like. I wouldn't really trust premium, but I mean, like the difference between premium and live service isn't, I think, as great of a gap as a lot of people say it is. Yes, it kind of confirms content in a way, and it was at least a healthier dose of content. But you're still, you're paying like $50 for premium, and now you're paying like $15 every 3 months or 3 or 4 months for Battle Pass. So it's like,
yeah,
I think if we did premium, it would be a similar experience, maybe just done in 6 months or 1 year installments. Um, but I don't know. I don't think they can deliver content at this rate, regardless of the monetization. Um, and it's crazy that like EA is not even putting skins in that game. Granted, I don't think I'd buy a skin right now. I don't think I've ever bought a Battlefield 5 skin. So, but it's just wild that like they didn't even have monetary like microtransactions or anything thought out for that game, which is like, how the hell did that fly at EA's desk? Like, oh yeah, we're gonna like push this game out, but we have no monetary content for it at all.
It's
They could
wild.
buy a battle pass, which is an IOU, but yeah,
Yeah,
but
it's wild. The other thing in 2022 is gonna be interesting to watch, in my opinion, is PUBG is seeing a resurgence right now.
mhm,
I
yep.
played it a little bit. I mean, it's kind of the OG, and honestly, it's a pretty cool like the nostalgia hit from playing it back in the day. But going free to play has kind of breathed new life into it, and I think people coming back to it are also going to see some interesting things. Like there's a lot. PUBG has kind of quietly done a decent job at a live service. They've added quite a few
Mhm.
maps. They're up to like 6 or 7 maps, weapons, different vehicles, and they've added quite a lot to that game actually. So PUBG is something I might dabble in a little bit too while we wait for the fall season when more stuff comes out. And like I said, World War III free to play is going to
Mhm.
be interesting too.
Yeah, like I said, I reinstalled PUBG, but I have not touched it just yet. My issue with PUBG is like for the amount of money that that developer has, for as popular as PUBG is, because at this point, it's pretty much a AAA title with the amount of players. It was a paid title until now. I feel like it is entering that AAA space as far as clout and as far as money. It's just not a very polished experience on console, not where it should be. And it's running Unreal Engine, I think, which is a fine engine. It's kind of the same story as like something like Ark Survival, where Ark is like it's not as polished as it should have been. It's on a robust engine that people know, and it's just like I don't know. I wouldn't ever want to pay. Like I have never paid for PUBG, and now I got it free, and I'll play it. But yeah.
Right. Cool. Well, that's all I really wanted to cover. I think we've been
Mhm.
going for quite a while. So if there's anything in the chat, we'll kind of wind it down um just a little bit to start to end this thing. I think it's been an awesome show. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for being here, dude. Um, putting up with me and all this weird stuff I got going on the screen. Is there anything in the chat that you guys would wish to discuss before we go? But other than that, I think.
You got some donos you might want to respond to.
Oh yeah, is there a place? Look on. Thank you guys for the super chats, by the way. Volt Shock with the membership, I really appreciate it. And Isma Easy, thank you for the 2 super chats. Volt Shock said when he became a supporter, this is back when we're talking about Battlefield 1, felt emotional looking back at the franchise as a whole, just thinking what happened to our franchise. True, I know Volt Shock was another YouTuber that's kind of quit posting
Hmm.
content since it came out.
Yep.
Isma said, "Hey guys, really love the type of content you both content. Since I'm at work, I can't listen live, but after work, I'll surely do it." Thank you so much, Isma, for the 5. And then another comment he had. I think EA Dice are silent because they don't what to do with the future of Battlefield. They want to double down on 2042 and don't want to change. Yeah, that goes along with what we were saying. With like, we don't know if what they're gonna do under this new leadership. It's interesting.
Hmm.
And Insurgent, no, I don't remember playing Mercenaries. And Decrout, the designer of the layout, he wants your professional opinion on the overlays.
On the overlays,
Yeah, you're gonna tear it
I
apart.
was a little bit more concerned with that title card, how my logo is just a square at the bottom.
That's on me. So I feel like if anything is messed up in the overlay or the thumbnail, it's my fault because I'm so bad at it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, it's good. It's readable. It's bright. It feels like Crash Games.
I like it. I like being inside of it. Nice. It could be worse. Yeah, but I don't know. I think that pretty much ends it quite well. I had a lot of good conversation. I don't know what the heck we'll do next week.
Hmm.
Gonna
Maybe we'll have an update because I know there is a touted fix or update. We'll see.
yeah, because they mentioned the guy in charge of Ripple Effect, J.A. Weeb. You think it's Weib? I don't know.
Not
But
sure.
he said that they're gonna be an update this week, and I don't know if that was. I feel like it was a communication update. I don't think it's an actual game update about fixing XP and Portal. So we should hear something this week. Jiminy Christmas, I sure would think so.
It's been. Yeah, I mean we're getting to the end of January and nothing's happened.
Isaac asked, "Do you have real hopes for Battlefield 2042?" Um, I have hopes, of course. Um, I I feel like they can fix it. I feel like some of the new hires they make shows that they want to fix it. Will they? I don't know. They're gonna have to
Yeah,
do
it's more
something.
down to if they want to at
Yeah,
this
if it's
point.
and
Like
it's
they have
gonna
all the means.
it's gonna be an ROI thing, right? Like since it's a big corporation, are they gonna make enough money if they put the money and time to fix it? Do they think they'll make that back in enough to make that worth their time? So it's gonna have to be like a Battlefield 5 Pacific update on steroids, like for me to like
Yeah.
rebranding, refixing stuff for me to really like it, like a complete change in direction, and then I'll get pretty excited about it. Are they gonna do that? Man, I don't feel like it. Like with the stuff that's in there now, if just what is in there now worked, I don't think I'd enjoy it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think like even Lossy and those kind of guys have been like, yeah, like when it does work, it's not even that exciting. Um, there's definitely still an audience for this. It's kind of it's kind of becoming like the white bread of video games at this rate. Like it's just not. It's just falling back in line with very traditional expectations. The gunplay isn't. There's no one aspect of this game that like really stands out. And it's like if you want to say the Tornadoes are 128 players, yeah, like Warzone has more players, right? It has 150, so it's like Call of Duty can do big players if it wants. The weather effects are cool, but like not utilized that much. And I'm concerned that they got in the way of other development needs or engine optimization. Same with the prior gen consoles. Just like should have dropped it. Because we already can't play together. So, you know,
It was weird.
I hate to be that guy, but I mean, those consoles are going on 10 years old. At some point, they're gonna have to fall behind. Um, but I don't know. I think Hazard Zone is honestly where I could have fun if they fix the progression system, if they fixed the performance issues. Hazard Zone, I would actually spend time in. I would get in there with a 4 man. I would crank out wins, earn cosmetics, earn currency, level up a battle pass. That's cool. I'm fine with that. Granted, that mode needs a little bit more help on a gameplay level, but I don't know, man. Conquest and maybe Breakthrough as well. I'm kind of done with. They're just kind of flimsy, if that's the best way to put it. Not super competitive, not super immersive. Map design is not great, so I'd rather play Rush, TDM just to get sweaty, or Hazard Zone to play with friends.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think Hazard Zone has the most potential for me too, just because it could be something different. It could get that adrenaline rush going with high stakes gameplay if they added a reason to play it.
Hmm.
Insurgent says people are still attacking Andy. I'm assuming McNamara. We should discuss why it's bad attacking the devs. Yeah, no one there. There's no room for personally attacking any of the developers, especially if you watch like Tom Henderson's video on the timeline. I think they were put in a
Yeah.
all indications that they were put in a really nasty crunch, and it's not like they want to make a bad game. There's no reason to attack them personally, and but also as someone who is a high up in the communication department of EA, I feel like Andy should have known that there are going to be some trolls, and like no matter what you do, even on my small channel, I get people in the comments that are mean or attack me or say something demeaning to me. You have to know that that's going to happen. The problem is
Hmm.
that it feels like they focus on that and say that's all there
Yeah.
is just people personally attacking him. That's not true. There's so
I.
many comments of people offering like advice and stuff, and they just ignore
Mhm.
them.
I also have a issue with these communication directors going down those rabbit holes a little bit too much. Um, so like that moment where I cannot remember which manager it was, the one who asked about weekly challenges.
Total
Great, come out,
FPS.
survey us, talk about it. Total FPS. He came out. He's like, hey, like, what are your thoughts? I want to take some feedback. Uh, he took feedback, which is great. Replied like, oh, a good note. I'll add it. Whatever. Like that's what he should be doing. But instead replied to Lossy, who Lossy was like, is like, oh, like real custom cosmetics, like weapon model changes would be great. And instead of saying like, hey, that's a great note. I'm glad you're interested in it. I'll take it back to the team and see what happens. He instead answered for the developers and said, "That sounds like a lot of work. I don't know if that's going to happen. Do you want it to happen free?" And then, you know, once he starts saying that the game that we paid $60 to $100 for, it should be, you know, essentially insinuating I should be paying for all the content moving forward. Although the experience I have already paid for a year worth of content with the battle pass, and he answered for the devs saying that, like, you know, model and 3D art is like too much work in this case. He should have just taken it and been like, great feedback. I'll check with the team, like, see what's possible. Um, I think there's moments where they kind of overstep a little bit too much. But I mean, yeah, Andy specifically, he gets a lot of hate, but he's also probably one of the most, what's the word? Like, he's,
Polarizing.
I don't want to say he's inciting anything. He probably puts out the most subjective of all the tweets. Like, total FPS coming out and be like, "Tell me your feedback." Like, that's pretty objective. But then having Andy come out and be like, "Hey guys, like this, the brutal expectations, that whole, you know, situation that's gotten memed." Like, I understand it, and he was calling out. He was talking about a very select group of people that said that they should have worked on Christmas and this kind of shit. But it's like going to your massive platform where your face is, where your personal tweets are, and then like kicking that pot like was just not the solution. But at the same time, like, these are guys getting death threats and shit.
Yeah,
So it's like, yeah,
Insurgent was saying he's talking about people attacking him on his like daily live tweet. Yeah, I mean
hmm
that's uncalled for and it's not appropriate. And I think 90
and he has
or
been blocking people now, which I think is great, to be honest. I mean, there are just
yeah,
some purely, like, it's one thing to be critical, and, like, you know, Danny on PC is incredibly critical, and he makes memes about Battlefield every day. But they keep him around, and granted, he's a little bit more of an insider. But like, you and I, or maybe a group of people who are pretty critical, will post memes, but like, we're not getting blocked. We'll like his tweets, we'll like update, we'll comment. But there were some people who he is banning or he's blocking now from like the official accounts, because they're just like, like, there are people who have his notifications on just so they can be the top comment to like tell him to go fuck himself. And
yeah.
it's like, it's one
And
thing to kind of shit on the game and, like, you know, be like that, but it's like, now you're
and
talking shit to Andy.
and I think as long as he just he blocks them and moves on, I think that says more about the people making those threats. And
Yep.
to intelligent people like us and people that are watching this show, shout out. Um, like, you understand that there's no room for personally attacking people, and you're just being an asshole at this point, or you're needing attention, or you have mental issues that you should probably talk to somebody about. Because, like, how do you get from like, I wish this game was better, to giving somebody a death threat on the picture of their breakfast might fix the game? Like, it just shows how
Yeah.
ridiculous and like unintelligent those people are.
No.
So yeah, Mick, that's a good point. We're needing some communication, and I'm sure the devs do know what needs fixed. I'm sure. Danny on PC is fired. That guy is everywhere.
Danny on PC, I have hung out with in Amsterdam, and that was the funniest shit ever. It was just like, because we're, you know, we're like in the red light district of Amsterdam, just like walking through from bar to bar, and, you know, we're just like, we're literally just like two guys talking about fucking video games in the red light district, and it's like, "Hey boys," and we're talking about Battlefield, honey.
We're busy.
Yes,
Wow.
this is a high level nerd conversation.
That guy is an enigma on Twitch or on Twitter. He's
He
just
is he is
everywhere.
hilarious on Twitter. Yeah, he still owes me like $30 from Amsterdam. So
Never forget.
yep, I'll start commenting. I'll be the toxic comment on his comments.
That's right. Set notifications and say, "Where's my $30?" And then also like
Yep.
accrue interest and start to make it go up as you have to remind him.
Yeah, I'll check on inflation when euros are at their weakest.
Raven Dave says, "Don't you think it would have been cool if 2042 built around the multiplayer around the nuclear weapon on discarded, like some sort of game mode involving the nuke?" Yeah, I made videos about this way early on, about how I was like, honestly, when they first said there's going to be no campaign and there was going to be lore to the multiplayer, like, I got excited because I thought they could take like operations to another
Operations.
level.
Yep.
Yeah, like they could do stuff like that, or they could have you know, when I thought you like in Kaleidoscope you could actually play in the city and stuff like that, like have kind of like a siege of the city, you're trying to get supplies in and you have to stop it, and just like so many like story type things they could have done with the multiplayer like that they just
And there's
obviously
game
didn't have
modes
time
like
for.
in Star Wars Battlefront 2 that do just that, where you have to like escort a carrier across the map. Like, and also look at Battlefront 2. We have the technology. If there's any case for Frostbite being a functional engine, it's Battlefront 2. And yes, Battlefront 2 had a lot of issues, but that game is gorgeous. It is content rich now. It tells a story. It is well voice acted. Um, but that all probably came off the back of having Disney like whip them into shape.
Yeah, there were some growing pains with that game for sure.
Yeah.
So, well, I think we've gone 2 hours. That's like more than I wanted to, but what I figured would happen when we started talking about this stuff. So
It's been these 2 hours are it's longer than I played Battlefield probably in the past month. So
yeah, pretty much that is accurate. But I think we'll end the stream there. Thank you everyone for showing up. Thank you Isma for the super chats and Voltshock for the membership. I appreciate it for everyone that hung out and listened to our rambling. Can't thank you enough. We should be back next week. Not entirely sure what that will look like. We'll be probably covering Tarkov or any Battlefield news. Just anything that happens. If anything crazy happens with Rainbow Six Extraction, we'll keep an eye on that. And yeah, I just can't thank everyone enough. I really thank USA for your time, dude. Appreciate it a bunch. Keep an eye out on his channel. Links in the description. He's going to be completely redoing the UI and fixing the game and showing DICE that it can be done. You can do it. And I look forward to that. So it's going to be cool.
Yep. All right, man.
All right. We'll catch you guys later.
Awesome chat.
Yep.
See you guys.
Bye. All right. We're off.
We're off. Lit.